This is Evan,
Jesse,
and Jen, and you're listening to the Discount Disciples podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here we go. Welcome back to Discount Disciples, everybody.
I'm
not
Evan.
back. This is our first episode. I'm Jesse.
I'm Jen. We don't know what we're doing.
No, we are.
Discount Disciples.
That's right.
A podcast for normal disciples that are seen as discount disciples by stuffy disciples.
That's probably the best explanation. If you haven't had a chance to listen to our first little 5 minute, 1 minute, whatever it turned into intro, that's us. We are coming from a past podcast, but we're gonna try to keep this one a little more tame for the gentle ears out there, and have a good conversation. Still, it's fine. It'll be great. So, as I said, I'm Jesse. Jen's over here. She's Catholic.
Rude. I've been not Catholic longer than I was Catholic. Thank you.
Wait, explain that.
I left going to Mass. I left the Catholic Church at 18, and I'm more than 36. So
cool.
I've been in the non-denominational.
We're all millennials,
church.
and we have not left church yet. Somehow. I know that's a weird thing for people out there.
Yep.
We're
just carrying that millennial flag.
That's right. We're still here.
Uh-huh.
With our discounted theology. But today, what are you drinking right now? Same thing as last time?
Or the same thing as this is the first time they're going to ever hear it.
First time that we've talked about this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Best Day Brewing, which is a non-alcoholic brewing company out of California, I think. I'm drinking their Kolsch.
Oh.
It's the best of the non-alcoholics.
I have a Modelo Cerveza Especial.
Nice.
So, no lime, though. I wish I had a lime.
What does that mean, Jesse?
A special beer by Modelo.
Great job.
Hey, those are the most normal words that I can...
Cerveza.
Cerveza. That's beer.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah. If I go to Mexico, that's the only word I will need. Cerveza. Where do you find yo quiero cerveza?
They'll send you back to the airport.
Yeah.
I have coffee. Shocking.
Coffee.
Well, we'll just get into it today. We typically josh around for way too long, but we're going to talk about a little bit of something. So today, sorry, my kid is walking in. It's summer nowadays, and we got a little one to keep an eye on. She's 5. Don't break things.
Yep.
Anyway, we today, Evan, you wanted to something was on your mind.
Yeah. So I've been doing, now having pastored really 2 different demographic type church. Now, the Grassroots has had, we were predominantly millennial, but the age range was there. We had, boomers, silent Gen folk, Gen Zers, and obviously all the kids were Gen Alpha. But and now I'm pastoring a church that's predominantly, I would probably say Gen X is the generation. And I started to think I was out of complaining about a certain generation. I started to really think about the movements of the American church since about 1950 and how that is reflective of kind of the generational. Those movements are reflective of the generational status quo, if that makes sense, or generational proclivities at least. And so started thinking about that, and I really wanted to say how a lot of times it's easy for us to criticize. We could say, the attractional movement was like a reform of, the mainline, stuffy mainline church. And that's easy to do from a critical standpoint. But I really want to do it. I really started to say, actually, I think these movements build upon one another because none of them are inherently wrong. These various Christian movements, they're not inherently wrong by any stretch, but they do build off of one another. So it's almost like it's each successive movement with each successive generation is on some level reforming the former movement, but also they are trying to build upon those tenets on some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Kind of a thing.
So
and I did some research. It's actually fairly interesting.
Okay.
At least I think.
What was the? I'm always bad with the generational names. What was pre-boomers and before that you had mentioned?
Silent
So
generation?
pre-boomer is the silent generation. Those are people who are like 82 all the way up until death. Yeah.
Okay.
Then they're
Before
very
them was
silent.
the greatest generation. That was like the World War I generation. Then it's boomers, baby boomers, Generation X, or what is used to be known as baby buster generation. And then it's millennial. Millennials were born, for the sake of keeping it simple, between 1980 and 1995. And then there's Gen Z. Used to also be called something else. It used to be called the Homelander generation because
Gen Z did?
Yeah, because they were coming of age during the time of Homeland Security, 9/11, all that
Oh,
stuff.
interesting.
Yeah, and then Gen Alpha, who I think now Gen Alpha's the high school and below people. I think
That sounds right.
the
Like,
worst, the generation
Your
that
children?
does not like to have fun. Yeah.
both of you, your children?
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were talking about high school. And I was like, I don't think high school's fun anymore. Like, I don't think kids have fun in high school. They don't hang out.
Oh, no.
They don't get in trouble. Like, it seems super boring and lame. Like, awful. Can't make fun of anybody. That's like half of high school is making fun of your buddies.
Gotta be gentle.
Yeah. Gotta take a mental health day. Or whatever.
It's a thing. My middle daughter Cora was saying, a friend of hers did the other day. I was like, "What? You are 10?
Is that an
You
excuse?
need a mental
absence?
health day?" I think it is.
They get a few, I think.
I don't know if that's like is that a national thing, or is that
sure
like just
it is.
regionally?
I don't think Ohio has that.
Dude, wild.
I mean, my kids go to private school, so they don't get mental health days. They just get a crap ton of homework.
Yeah, no, can't do that. Okay, so what did you see? You said you had some research you were talking about that you were seeing some active.
Yeah. So if we go back to set the stage, you go back to the 1950s. The 1950s saw kind of a huge culture shift in the United States. It's post-World War II. The GI Bill allowed a lot of families to move into the suburban developments, stuff like that. You know, they come back from war, they get a chunk of money, go buy a house. A lot of people say that's racist. I'm like, if someone handed you 50 grand and said, go buy a house, you're not going to buy a house in the middle of a city. You're going to get some land with it. Like, it's just, that's kind of what happened. And so the silent generation and their kids, the boomers, started to move outside of the cities. It was happening before that, but really after World War II is when that really kicked off. And one of the things that didn't follow were churches, right? And so in these suburban communities, which used to be rural, you had small rural churches, your Baptist churches, your Congregationalist churches, stuff like that. But the traditions were not the traditions that you left. Your mainline Presbyterian, Episcopalian denomination type thing, Methodist. And so following that came really the first big wave of church planting. And as the boomers started to get older, and specifically you're looking at the 1960s and 70s, they were the first generation to drop out of church. In fact, today, the generation that goes to church the least, this is mind-boggling statistics. The generation that goes to church the least is the baby boomer generation. So we talk about
mom.
so we like
She does not go to church.
which is because we always like people poo-poo on millennials and Gen Zers and Gen Xers, but it's like the boomers were the first ones to really abandon church. And so it gave rise to different thinking, beginning with a guy by the name of Donald McGavran. He was a missionary to India, and he came back to the United States, Southern California, and he said, well, people aren't going to church anymore. How do we get people back into church? And so he created really this school of thought called the church growth movement. How do we grow? How do we reach it? How do we reach the baby boomers? And how do we grow our churches predominantly with the emerging generation, the baby boomers? And so they created the attractional or the seeker-sensitive church model, which was basically, you could define that as come and see. And that model really was reflective of the sensibilities of baby boomers. Baby boomers were the first generation to embrace consumerism on mass scales. They were the first generation to, this is going to sound critical, and it kind of is, but the first generation really to not prepare for their family's future. They, which is, obviously that's there's a lot of criticism there. But it was a consumption driven, or has been a consumption driven generation and their generational values are things like perfection. Everything needs to look perfect. My front yard needs to look perfect. My house needs to be tip-top shape at all the time. If someone's coming over for dinner, table needs to be set, like probably how we grew up, generally. And so churches started to reflect that. You get your big, beautiful, perfect-looking church. The temperature is like a nice 69 degrees. There's a coffee shop in there, like bookstore. It's consumer driven. That's attractional model.
Yeah.
Comfort. Yeah, very comfortable because the boomers value comfort and security and safety. And stuff. They value their stuff pretty heavily. Then you get to the Gen Xers, and the Gen Xers are they're the forgotten generation, but they're like the generation that's totally cool with being middle management. Like none of them wants to be, like Gen Xers don't like to be in charge. They don't like to have too much accountability. They love grunge music and baggy pants. And yeah, you're like, rah. And so they started to critique their parents' church, specifically in the late 80s and all the way through the 90s and early 2000s, which gave rise to what is known as the emergent church movement. And this is the church movement of, on our former show, we had Brian McLaren. He was a big proponent. And these are you don't really take away, you don't strip away everything from the church. You just change how you talk is essentially what the emergent church was. So you could have emergent churches that met and had like a more liturgical or traditional style of worship, but how the sermon was presented, it was wrapped up a little bit more storytelling, a little bit less rigid in their theology, stuff like that. And that's where you get like the coffee shop churches, grassroots. Like we definitely, when I first got there, and definitely when you first planted, took a lot of cues from the emergent church movement. Coffee shop, brewery, just a dude with an acoustic guitar, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that was marked with the sensibilities of Gen Xers. Gen Xers are, by nature, they're not really committed people. So they don't really want to commit to an organization. They don't really want to commit to a relationship inherently, and all this. And so their churches reflected their sensibilities of like, we just want to hang out. Like we don't want to go overboard. The seeker sensitive or the attractional movement did well to reach my parents' generation, but now we have to reach my generation So we're going to take what we learned from the seeker-sensitive or attractional movement, come and see, but we're also going to add a little bit of, eclecticism. We're going to strip away the perfection, and we're going to be a little more imperfect in how we gather. That failed in the late 2000s and early 2010s for a few reasons. One, as a movement, there was no guiding center. It was just like a whole bunch of dudes let's do church like this, and so there's no church planting movement. There was no real key thinker or somebody helping to guide these churches into the future, and so they all slowly started to die off. And Rob Bell's clumped in with that. Rob Bell wasn't an emergent guy, but his church definitely had an emergentness, very stripped away, no fancy stuff at all. But really, the movement died with him. When he left Mars Hill in Michigan, the emergent church was, nails in the coffin at that point. But that gave way to the disgruntled emergent folk who left in the mid-2000s. They really started to think heavily about missional church and what does it look like to be a missional church. The go and make more disciples. That's the whole center, the guiding value of that. And the millennials, our generation, gravitated towards that. Because contrary to popular belief, millennials are actually not very lazy. We're actually a fairly antsy generation. And which is why it's easy for us to get sucked into YouTube, YouTube rabbit holes, because we have to if we're not doing something, we might as well consume something that feels like we're doing something. So I might as well watch 100 YouTube videos on, whatever.
I think that's a boy thing.
How to build
That's a boy thing, right?
Yeah,
YouTube?
house just
I don't watch YouTube.
Girls just like you, Lululemon and boba tea.
I don't wear any. I don't own any Lululemon. Thank you.
Lululemon. I mean, yeah, I spend a lot of time on TikTok.
TikTok, any of that. Just like going down these rabbit holes. But we're a very antsy generation. We like to do stuff. So the missional value system of going and making more disciples was the thing that millennials gravitated for. It wasn't the emergent kind of loosey-goosey thing, because we don't, as a generation, we also don't like loosey-goosey stuff. We like there to be a center. So the missional church said, okay, we're going to bring back good theology, because the emergent church essentially threw out good theology. And so the missional church, we're going to bring good theology and good missiology in hopes to reach a generation that is increasingly, especially in the 2010s, leaving the church, graduating from high school, leaving the church. Mm-hmm. So how do we reach those people and bring them into a different kind of, community? And that, thinking about the missional church is really the thing that started to spark my brain on this, because I've increasingly become more critical of the missional movement as a whole. Obviously, my proclivities are in it. That's what I went to seminary for. But it's still lacking something. The seeker-sensitive, the boomer generation, it lacked deep theology. It lacked it definitely lacked deep community. The emergent church engaged the community, but it threw out any sort of good theology and any sort of tradition standards, really. I was talking to a guy here at church a few weeks ago. I was like, it would be great. How easy it would be if God didn't have standards? If there's nothing. And the emergent church kind of threw out the standards. I'm not saying fundamentalist legalistic stuff, but hey, there is a spiritual growth that happens. We should be transforming. We should try not to sin, that kind of stuff. Where the emergent church was like, who cares? So millennials gravitated largely heavily towards this missional thing, the making of disciples, the spiritual formation, building churches for the hopes and vision of planting more churches. It was a very active thing. However, the missional church failed in creating deep community. Because if your message is always go and make, the question now becomes, what kind of people are you sending? You know? And so I started to think about that. And so my opinion is that the church needs a new movement now that we're 20 some odd years past the beginning of the missional movement. Then the new movement is a communal movement where actually we want the missional arm, but we have to form a people who are capable, equipped, capable, trained, and given tools to actually go and do the thing, rather than say, yeah, just go make disciples. You know, we have to create a community, like an actual people to do it, which I think is more reflective of how Jesus did it. I mean, he built a community for 3 years before he said, see you guys. You know?
Yeah.
Because when you have a strong community, like communalism, when you have a strong community, any sort of the weird disagreements or the infighting, rumors tend to not happen in a strong community. Like when the people are actually living life together and being deep and sharing burdens and talking about the issues, joining LTGs or whatever it is, if you disagree or fight, you can get past it really quick. Whereas if you're attractional and there's a fight, you just bounce. If there's the Gen X thing, the emergent church, same. You just kind of bounce. The missional church, you're like, it's too hard, so I'll just stop going to church altogether. And so now I'm like, no, we need to actually form relationships and form people, or a people. Like churches should be seen more as a people rather than, you know, organizations, institutions, things of that.
A building.
Yeah.
A building.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think, like you said, our generation wanted like authenticity and all that stuff within theology and things, but it also, we just never knew how to do. I wouldn't say we didn't know how. I think we wanted deep community, but we're never led to know how to make that or create it. But then you see that the trickle-down effect with all of these, like you're explaining, the trickle-down effect down here. And then you have now the next generation past us is dealing with the lack. And part of this is like COVID times and whatever, but there's only so long you can make that as an excuse, right?
Yeah.
We've been out of COVID longer than we had the COVID situation. But you have so many people that don't know how to, you know, create friends because of social media or to actually be around each other. And then you have loose and not deep or no community, you know, and you're seeing the backlash of that right now already in a younger generation that struggles.
You're passing. I mean, and that's all of these things, like things are passed down from how you're raised and what previous generations' experiences were and the things that they wanted for us, which sometimes are positive traits that we end up with and sometimes become negative traits, right?
Yeah.
And then I think you think the same thing. Like we're all pretty communal, like community driven people. And you're passing that down to your kids in a way that I think a lot of people don't.
But I would say we've had a lot of work to get there.
Oh yeah. It takes work for sure.
I mean, arguably, like when you were pastoring our church, that was a huge push. And I think that's something we always strive to do or said that was an important thing in our community, but we never did it well. You know, never knew how to do it well.
Well, it's difficult in practice because you show up, you see everybody on Sunday, and you best laid plans. You want to do something, whatever. And then like life gets in the way. You have a spouse, you have kids, you have jobs, you have expectations. You, especially like you said, like millennials keep themselves busy, like whether or not people think so, you know,
to the point of causing massive anxiety disorders.
And then you can't get along with anybody. It's like,
a generation of firstborns don't want to let anyone down.
Anxious chihuahuas is our generation.
Because like if you go back, I mean, you look at some of like the cultural movements that took place. You know, the seeker-sensitive movement, the cultural movement obviously was suburban sprawl, all of that stuff. The Gen Xers cultural modernism with the baby boomers, you know, city planning, all that boring stuff. Then Gen Xers like fully embraced postmodernism, where everything is relative. There's no real such thing as truth. It's like your truth versus this person's truth. question everything. And and that's how the emergent church got to where it was. It was like a church that was just like, yeah, we don't really know what we believe because we're filled with Gen Xers who don't really care to believe anything. Where us millennials were like, actually, no, we do want to believe something. We do want to have like a guiding force. And we do believe, like, we read the scriptures. We might disagree with a thing here or there or whatever. That's usually a issue of interpretation rather than what the scriptures are actually saying. But we want something to drive us. Mm-hmm. And I look at specifically with Gen Z because they started to emerge during COVID, right? Like the Gen Z was the graduating classes from the COVID era. Yeah. And that sucks. And so the community was stripped away from them. They are forced online. They don't know how to get away from being online. There are books about how Gen Z is the most anxious generation of all time, specifically because of the online stuff. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, so if the church answered the suburban sprawl issue and tried to answer the postmodernist issue and answered the lack of doing issue for the millennials, what is the big issue for Gen Z? And I think the cultural movement not only is the lack of community, but I also think there is, like, postmodernism's dead. Like, that died the second COVID hit. Like, relativism, that does not exist anymore. It's more, I like to call it a cultural fundamentalism, where, like, take away the religion, everything is you're either with me or against me, right? It's either, Pride Month or no Pride Month, or you're a hater and a bigot, or it's, you vote for Democrats or you're a hater and a bigot, or you vote for Republicans and you're a crazy commie, whatever it is, right? Yeah. And that's the issue I could see Gen Z becoming, is they don't have community coupled with this sociological movement towards black and whiteism, not racial, but And so how do you remedy that? You build community, and you show people like, hey, you don't get to run away when you disagree with somebody. Mm-hmm. Because the community is going to force you to stay in because it's a strong, tight-knit community. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you see that. Yeah, I mean, that's the push that we're in right now, and seeing that play out it's a super important thing. Because I like, again, my daughter is Gen Z, my oldest daughter, and she just seeing that lack of community is just depressing to me for her. It's just like, you need to find some kind of community. It's not all about black, white, like you said, not racial, but like this issue is absolutely true. This issue is you're wrong, I'm right, blah blah blah. And you see that like constantly because you're being fed that on your feeds on TikTok, and your Facebook's dead and dying, but Instagram, any of those, you're like, fed what you want to look up.
Yeah, and what are some of the industries that they're not going to die quickly, but they will die with us? And that's like your brewery industry. Because the whole thing is like Gen Z doesn't drink alcohol, or they don't drink alcohol, and they're like, oh, that's because they know all how bad it is for you. It's like, no, it's because they don't hang out with anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, honestly, that's reason. You can see that though, but like it's sad but true. Alcoholism is going down to a point in that generation. There's a lot of like exodus from drinking.
Not alcoholism.
Well.
Drinking alcohol.
Consumption of alcohol.
Yes.
Consumption of alcohol.
Consumption of alcohol. Yeah.
It's good and bad that alcohol is going down.
No, not good and bad. No, I'm saying, but you see that it's being like that generation is avoiding and going away from drinking actively. Yeah. But there's also an oddity to it because, the quote unquote local pub where people find community often, whether or not it's like, is part of that community too. You're abandoning certain kind of things. So it's like, where do you find community? And the hardest part that I would say pushing back to is like, I could see it turning badly into more of the you come to us kind of mentality again for churches. It's like, well, we're a community, come to us. And so like, how does the church be in the community that it's in and meet people where they're at? when those things are kind of slowly dying.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like, one, you have to begin with the people you have.
Yeah.
Right. I think in order to create a communal, and I'm not talking like hippie, like live in a commune. I'm talking about building a community. So you start with the people you have, similar to what we did at Grassroots. Yeah. And you're not focused so much on the growth, although we needed to grow at Grassroots. So we
had a community.
And we did. But you focus heavily on the internal things. And that takes time. It took us 6.5 years, right?
Yeah.
And we were probably 75% of the way there, all said and done. So you focus on the people in there, you form the people, you form together. So it's not like a pastor is forming people, but you form together as a community, more and more, closer to Jesus. Like Christianity is a communal faith. Like Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, if you love the idea of community more than the community itself, you destroy the latter. Right. And so, like, Christianity is supposed to be a community. It's supposed to be a community of people. And once you form those people more and more into Christ-likeness, I think it's the job of the church to start creating and building those spaces, those third spaces for people to engage on some level. There's one thing, I think there will always be a come and see element to the church. We have buildings, we have signs, we have social media, advertising budgets, whatever it is. But I think the true change is going to be, it's going to be churches who build, kind of like what we were talking about with the Rockford Commons thing, or, they open breweries, or not so much coffee shops, because every like white girl opens a coffee shop. So it's like, it doesn't need to be a coffee shop anymore, but you create those spaces where people do want to come and hang out, and they do want to sit, and there's not like a churchy agenda. It's just, hey, we're getting people away from their phones and their computers and their
bring your vapes and conversation, man.
Bring your weed vapes. Yeah.
But yeah, it is true. Like you got to find those common spaces, and I think that would be an interesting. And again, like I have a half in this, because I think our generation kind of turned that into what breweries and other things were for us. But like how do you do that cleanly without the quote unquote agenda? I think it's more like that's the harder part, is like without the agenda.
Yeah.
Because I think most churches will have the agenda.
Yeah.
So how do you?
They don't.
They say they don't, but there's always that like, well, have you prayed for these people now? Whatever.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But like the point is, like, are you doing the job of living in those spaces just to be in those places and have a community that's developing within you? You're not trying to like force something. You're just being part of that community that's naturally occurring.
Yeah. Like we have, we having talks about a men's retreat, right? For our church. And somebody was like, well, we need to find a guest speaker. And I was like, no, we don't. I was like, no, one, we're not paying for it. Two, men don't want to go somewhere to hear somebody talk. Yeah. Like that's the last thing. Like that's the last thing a guy really wants to do.
It's called a retreat for a reason.
Yeah. They want to go, they want to fish, they want to hang out, smoke some cigars, have honest and real conversations with one another about everything from sports to faith to marriage to kids to whatever it is. Like that's what men generally want to do. They don't want to have an agenda to hang out. They just want to hang out. And so I was like, we're not doing that. And that's like the issue with the church, is that there always needs to be, and this stems all the way back from, mainline Christianity did this, but seeker sensitivity and attractional church created a program around everything, right? There's a kids program, men's program, women's program, singles program, gay lesbian therapy program, or whatever it is, right? There's a program or an agenda for everything. And I'm like, our generation hates that. Yeah. Gen Z is going to hate that. We just all want to hang. Let's just hang. Yeah. And then
don't put me in a box and make me only hang out with people that are exactly like me.
Yeah. And then like Sunday mornings will always be Sunday mornings. You have to have a corporate gathering space. That's found in the book of Acts. I mean, Paul rented out. What are you doing?
I hit my head on the mic. It's
not even close. She's just nodding so hard at what you're saying. She's like, boom, boom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you always need to have like the corporate gathering space. It should always be reverent and celebratory. You should, it's in Acts chapter, I'm going to butcher it, 9, where the apostles are like, yeah, where's Jeff? Where Paul or the apostles were like, all right, we're gonna, tag some other people to do like the serve the meal stuff, so that the few leaders can go and like preach the gospel, right? So there is like this organizational thing that takes place. That's not a bad thing, but if that becomes your only thing, that's when it becomes a bad thing. And so you always need the Sunday morning deal. And people are always going to show up to the Sunday morning deal off the street. They're always going to find you on the Facebook or your website. And that's perfectly okay. But you need to couple that with a heavy dose of community to eventually lead to some sort of missional work out in the world, whether that's third space creation, putting neighborhood cookouts once a week for your whatever it is, right? It's all centered on the community and relationship building, rather than, all right, I need to make a disciple of you, which is true. You do need to make disciples of people, but I need to make a disciple of you so I could baptize you so I could go make a disciple of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Turn and burn, bye.
It was chapter 6. Acts chapter 6.
Acts chapter 6. I knew it was a single digit.
Yeah, and it's interesting talking it through again. Like, I think what we're seeing is what the younger generations are wanting, or I think are what we very much wanted. We just also displayed it poorly, didn't know how to execute it right. And then, but you see that trickle down from every generation.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't that kind of what you described at the beginning of this? Is what every generation thought is what would fix the things they had issues with. Did fix some, but then it opens up doors to what else?
Which arguably, I mean, if you want to look at it from like a higher point of view, that's a good thing. Like, to a point, like there's movement. There's always movement in something that we should be pursuing. It's not like we fixed this, now it's all great.
That's what happens in your own life, right?
Yeah.
Like, you try to get healthy and you realize, oh, well, this is actually an issue also, or in your faith, right? Like now I'm praying more regularly, but now I'm realizing, well, I haven't read scripture in 7 months or what, like anytime we fix one thing, you find another. There's always more growth to have, right? So if the church has been doing that through movement after movement, it's not necessarily that like the seeker sensitive movement was horrible, because they were trying to fix something that they felt that what they grew up in needed to be changed. And you're just seeing that over and over again. So now we're saying, okay, well, we kind of, as millennials, we're like, let's deconstruct everything. But we still kept our faith within that, because we saw a lack of that, and just maybe a lack of caring in general towards faith. And then, but that meant then the next generation's like, they started from a point of questioning, which isn't necessarily helpful. So there's
a healthy thing.
Right. So it's like, oh, but that's on us, right? Like, we were raising kids as people who that was the church that we've given them. Yeah. So, heirs of our own ways, 2020, hindsight, all of that, whatever. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, is the church has been really, really bad at developing and passing on stuff to the next generation. So you could look at these movements even as, let's start with seeker sensitive. So seeker sensitive happens, Robert Schuller, Crystal Cathedral, eventually Willow Creek and Saddleback and Hillsong, all those churches are a part of that movement. Eventually, but those churches are all largely controlled by and still led by, for the exception of modern church planting, but those OG churches, baby boomers. Right? Baby boomers are, the youngest is like 65. So they're all over retirement age, but they won't like release it necessarily. Because control is a value of baby boomers. Because if you have control, then you that you could predict outcomes, essentially.
Yeah.
And so the Gen Xers said, okay, we'll start our new thing. But they didn't release it either. So millennials like, we're going to do our own thing. And now it's going to be our job. You know, when we're not that like far away from that moment in time, believe it or not. But, you know, it's our job now to really set up a strong next generation formation, I guess, in order to them to continue to build on the thing rather than to go off and start a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I guess there's also something to be said too about like, I don't know, that can be a whole different rabbit hole, different discussion that we can do later. But like, there's also a huge push into mysticism nowadays, like trying to pull away from the Western church, which arguably I think is a good thing to a point. But it also leads to where have we left our younger generations at in a world of like growing mysticism, but without any direction, you know. So there's so many like little offshoots you can go with those kind of things, but
yeah,
to grow it and leave them in a good space is almost like you look back generation for generation for generation. That's what everybody's quote unquote trying to do.
Yeah.
Never, it's like they're gonna do their own thing to a point, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and you're gonna look, you know. Oh, what was I? Oh, I was reading an article about baby boomers. It was written by a baby boomer. He was like President Clinton's chief counsel or something, some dumb political guy. But he was talking about boomers, and then he brought up in this article, he was like, people don't realize this, but baby boomers essentially invented divorce. And then he explains it. And I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, before the boomers got married, people didn't really get divorced. They got divorced in extenuating circumstances like affairs or abuse, but largely like no-fault divorce was not a thing until the baby boomers came, because boomers... you know, we all have our issues. Boomers have their issues. Millennials, we have our issues. But for boomers, because they like control, safety, security, and the pursuit of happiness is a massive value for them. Like they see when their spouse stops making them happy, it's just time to move on rather than fix the issue. They're like, we'll just go be happy with, you know, my new, 30-year-old secretary or whatever, you know. But it was like I never even thought of that as an idea, because divorce is obviously, the Bible talks about divorce, so it's always been a thing. But mass divorce, to where, you know, my guess is the 50% of people will get divorced. My guess is that's a wrong stat, because I don't think that's true. I think it's a lot less than that, but yeah, so that's like another thing that you have to realize, like community and relationships and the commitment to that from our parents specifically, at least the low commitment to that, really affected us in a really strange way. And our churches look like that, because boomers also, I mean, they're the church planting or church hopping generation. They'll bounce around, you know. If they don't like the new guy, they're going to go, or lady, they're going to go to a church down the street. So they are massive flight response, I would say, in the boomer generation. Xers are nobody knows. I think honestly, millennials, we're fighters. Like we're stubborn, we fight, and we are on some level reformers. Like we just want to reform things. Like 9-to-5s are sweet, but why would I work a 9-to-5 when I could work on my own schedule and make the same amount of money, right?
Nothing, yeah.
Why? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Or, why would I go to law school to be miserable just to make a bajillion dollars, but I'll never see my friends, family, or kids anymore?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So the value system has changed. And I think millennials, we are a reforming generation, which allows us a little bit, our psyche allows us to create something new, which I'm arguing is communalism, or a communal Christianity.
Yeah.
A communal church, rather, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that resolves a lot of issues in general if you can dig into community.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's just how I think people are so bewildered in how to create a good community. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, communities are way more adaptable to change than organizations
I shouldn't even say good community, like a healthy community. But that's the thing. People are always looking for, quote unquote, their idea of a good community. But like you said, the second something stirs up, you leave.
Yeah,
that's not community. That's not like true community.
It's not healthy community.
Yeah,
and
that's
what
has
we've
to be mutual. You have to put in what you take out. Like a real community is you put in what you take out of it.
Yeah. And online culture will tell you everything else is, I mean, you have to agree with everybody. You have to, if you're not on my side, it's the opposite. So, yeah. I mean, digging into
I've just taken the stance I'm disagreeing with everybody from now on.
Just always.
Yeah, I just disagree. Why? Just because it seems healthier?
Because it brings up more conversation than just because instead of being passive.
Yeah. It's like, no, bombing Iran was a good thing. What?
Well, I mean, obviously this is one of those ones that's just like, there's no like answers to it, but I think it's one of those, as millennials, we three are, I think it's hard to not be reactionary to things because you have to be willing to change and be reactionary. But I think it's prepping and planning and being honest with what we've caused, trauma to the next generations of, and trying to help be aware of those things. Because I think we've also experienced all these opposite end of people above us having a lot of denial in where they were at, So I would say, like, we can't speak for the other generations, but I think we can learn from that and try to be aware of our idiocies.
Yeah.
And where to help lead other people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you could see, because the church has sucked so bad at being communal or focusing on community, you see these emerging generations, beginning with millennial, they start to create church adjacent communities, or things that feel or they try to fill the void of a lack of church community with other things. Like our generation, Gen Z, I mean, they jump into these versions of community like really quickly, whether it's like the protest community, right? The people who just show up because there's a protest about whatever. Like, who knows if they know what the protest is about? They just paint on a cardboard sign and show up. You have your pride community, right? People flooding to that, even if they're straight, white, whatever. It's like, I want to be a part of a thing, because there's not a thing, because the church largely, and the church's default for lack of community, because we hadn't built community well. I also argue that the church is at fault for sexual deviances, like pornography, prostitution, casual, sex as a commodity rather than a commitment type of a thing. Because the church was like, don't have sex before marriage, don't have sex outside of marriage, don't look at porn. Why? It's not good. Look, can we talk about this? Like, can we flesh this out a little bit? Right. Can you tell me why it goes against holiness for me to have sex with my girlfriend in high school? Yeah. Right. Not saying I'm not saying you should have sex with your girlfriend in high school. You shouldn't. But when you don't get any reasons or any sort of conversation there,
it's just the because I said so.
Yeah, because I said so. And then
because God said no.
Yeah, and then the second the internet came out, every 11-year-old boy was like, "Man, boobs," you know.
Sounds personal.
Not untrue.
Yeah.
It's free.
But, yeah. It's free. And so if we look at the culture today, if we look at all these people flooding to, I would call them lesser communities because they only show up once a year for a thing, is because the church largely has not built, maintained, and cultivated strong community.
So let's fix it.
Continue.
Yeah. Most of these, as we've done podcasting for years, most of these are going to end with a, so yep. because there's no end, there's no fix to it. I mean, there are fixes, but it also.
But it's not really about
it's
fixing
an ongoing
it.
conversation.
It's about thinking about your own experience and what you've gone through, and what do you need to change within yourself, or what have you maybe shut the door on that maybe you should rethink, or whatever. Much like this, like, are you just stuck in a church that, or in a part of your faith that's not really helping you grow, without acknowledging that there's some room for that, or things that you're maybe teaching your children or kids in your, if there's kids in your community or whatever, like, what are we showing them that maybe we would hope they don't actually carry with them in the next generation,
Yeah, it's like anytime I see an 11-year-old with a cell phone, I want to smack the mess out of the parents. Like, what are you doing? Like the little girl who used to live across the street from our house in Rockford, always just sitting on like the bench, just like looking at cell phone stuff. I'm like, it's 75 degrees and sunny.
Generally,
get dirty.
Unwatched.
Go do something. Yeah. Wild.
It's not getting any better. Like in this, we're going to start sounding like old people over and over again by this, which we do. But like, I mean, the technology world, which I love technology. I love AI. I love all those things, but it's killing our culture. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, and we did it to ourselves.
Yeah, we did.
But, millennials. So cool. That's a good ender. First episode of this.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Double D.
We're not doing that.
The double D's.
I didn't agree to that.
Welcome to the Double D podcast.
No.
We're going to get a whole lot of different listeners that like, wait.
Why are they
talking about the Bible?
Gonna just
someone using AI to find like podcast about boobs.
Okay. Just talk about boobs for an hour once a month.
I guarantee there's a podcast. I guarantee there's a podcast about boobs.
100%. We can't use that word, that title. It's already taken. Double D podcast. Absolutely.
Oh! I was like, what are you talking about?
Anyway.
And this is why we're discount.
This is why
go down these rabbit holes.
We've abandoned our first podcast. Anyway, that was a fun conversation. Hang tight. We'll be releasing these monthly, so forgive us as we fumble our way through and not try to repeat certain things we've done in past episodes.
If you know the podcast we came from,
if you know
but maybe they're new and they don't know any better,
and that's okay.
Don't Google.
Send it to your friends.
Let's end it there before we get terrible. Like and share. This is the thing we'll say constantly. Like and share, because otherwise we're just speaking into the void for no reason. So
subscribe.
Oh,
hit that subscribe button.
That's our old thing. I was recording on a different platform. And it was playing our old intro music or exit music as we were just talking about.
You probably couldn't hear
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Jesse.
I'm Evan.
I'm Jen.
And that was
Discount
Disciples.
Good chatting. See you soon.
1